In a so-called free state, officials and stakeholders concoct solutions to problems often created by other bureaucrats and with little regard for infringements on the people. These stories are born at the apex of freedom and entrepreneurship. We foolishly advocate for the taxpayer. Brian's Beat presents Freedom Fools.
Hour 2 of Freedom Fools on WBSM. I am that Brian. Quote of the day: power concedes nothing without a demand. Power concedes nothing without a demand. That quote from Frederick Douglass. Let me again thank Jose Matos for joining us during hour number 1, explaining the Trump account. I am, to say the least, leery about the Trump account. And I think part of that is I'm leery of Donald Trump. And I don't want to dissuade you necessarily. I'm just saying to me, it sounds good. But quite frankly, a lot of things that come out of government start off sounding good. And I want to believe many people are well intentioned when they come up with these plans, but somehow, some way, things just seem to turn. And it reminds me of how things were back in the 1770s. There was the Boston Massacre, 1770. Then a couple of years later, actually 3 years later, there was the Boston Tea Party, where folks, patriots, colonists, sons of libertyists, were so enraged at the taxes that were coming down from England that they decided to have a night. I think it was really December 16th. And they had a few speeches, and then they dumped a lot of the tea overboard. And just as a point of reference, one of the ships that had the tea on board, I believe, was called the Dartmouth, and it was built in New Bedford. Just a thought. Anyway, so we go from the Boston Tea Party to what I've dubbed an ICE Tea Party that's going to be taking place in Boston on Tuesday evening. And it's basically folks that are enraged by all of the activities going on with immigration and customs enforcement. And one of the organizations throwing the ICE Tea Party is Mass 5501. The executive director of the group, Rebecca Winter, is joining us today on Freedom Fools. Rebecca, good afternoon to you. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Brian. Thanks for having me today.
No problem. So you guys, Mass 5501, you've been involved in a lot of the activism that's taken place since Donald Trump got into office. And if I'm recalling correctly, your group is kind of born out of January 20th, 2025.
In a lot of ways, it is. After President Trump came back into office, there was a call to action nationally called 50-51. It's 50 states, 50 protests, one day. And that happened on February 5th of this year. There were protests, not just in every capital in every U.S. state, but in several towns across the country as well. So that changed to 50-51, meaning 50 protests, 50 states, one movement. And that is a decentralized movement. But here in Massachusetts, we are centralized into a statewide nonprofit, Mass 50-51. And we've been throwing a lot of the larger protests that you may have heard of, like Hands Off and No Kings. But we also do smaller protests, and we are pushing people towards sustained action through boycotts, campaigns, pressuring Congress, and more actionable items like that.
So what's planned? An ICE Tea Party. I don't know. Are you throwing ICE agents into the wall? What's going on?
So we are a nonviolent movement. We won't be throwing ICE agents into the harbor, at least maybe in our imagination we will be. But for the Boston Iced Tea Party, we are going to be meeting at the Irish Famine Memorial Plaza at 7:15 on Tuesday evening. And that is going to be right after the reenactment of the original Boston Tea Party. We're going to have a very short rally and a march down to the harbor, and we're going to be throwing giant blocks of commercial ice into the ocean.
That legal?
It is. We have approval from the Boston Harbor Master, and the whole event is permitted.
Whew, really? For some reason, I thought throwing ice or other types of objects into salt water wasn't a legal thing to do, but apparently it is. You like you say, you guys are all permitted. So how do folks get involved? Because what I'm hearing is, and if it, in relation to all of the other protests that have taken place around the country, I would think that people would want to do an ice tea party in many coastal areas, even down here.
Yes, and the original Boston Tea Party happened in Boston, but as I've been reading about the history, that kicked off tea parties that happened all over coastal areas. So we would love for this idea to catch on. Obviously, the throwing the ice in the ocean is symbolic. We are concerned about the environment these days. We're not going to be able to throw barrels of tea or anything more substantial in. But there are a lot of different ways to resist right now, and some of the creative resistance really gets people motivated to do more in their everyday life, and that's what we want. So this event is open to anyone. You can RSVP to it on our website, mass5051.org, but you're also welcome to just show up, and we're expecting a pretty big crowd that night.
It's going to be kind of cold. Do I bring my own ice?
Yes. Don't bring your ice. We're going to provide ice, and we actually have a sign up. So the bridge that we're going to be throwing ice off of, it is only a certain width, so we're going to have about 100 people that are actually throwing the ice, and then we're going to have a series of chant leaders that are leading the crowd in chants in solidarity. But yes, please don't bring your own. We will provide it to make sure that it's up to clean standards.
Rebecca Winter is our guest. She is the executive director of Mass 50. 501. How do you really say that? I say 5501. Yeah. What do you say?
I know, it's so confusing. It's 5051, and spelled out, it's the numbers 50501.
Okay. Oh, it's a 5050. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Why? Why not just go 5051?
It is just the way that we say it throughout the nation. Sometimes I try to put a pause before that one, but again, the numbers are symbolic. It's the 50 states, 50 protests, one movement.
Gotcha. And let's get down to the nitty gritty. You guys have been protesting 3 or 4 or 5 times this year about the Trump administration. This particular one is dealing with ICE. Yes. What is it that you guys, Boston Indivisible, in fact, Indivisible all across the nation, are you protesting about what the Trump administration is doing when it comes to ICE?
Yeah, so we're specifically protesting the tactics that ICE has been using since the Trump administration came into office. We are not saying that we want violent criminals walking free. We are not saying that our borders should be completely open. What we are saying is that we have a constitution that applies to everyone on U.S. soil, irregardless of citizenship. That means if we are going to be detaining immigrants, we need to be doing it humanely, and we need to be following due process so that they're actually seen by a judge. That's not happening right now. What we're seeing is our neighborhoods being terrorized by masked men who refuse to show identification, who refuse to show a warrant, who are showing up and violently grabbing people off of the street, detaining them, often getting the wrong targets. We have data at this point that over 75% of the people who have been detained have committed no crimes. They don't all have citizenship, but there are people with valid visas. There are people with green cards. There are American citizens who have been detained. We just saw that on the news this week as Kristi Noem was interviewed and lied to Congress about that. So
I don't know that she lied to Congress. I sat there and I thought, she really doesn't know what's going on in her own department.
I mean, that could be true. That could absolutely be true. But the fact is, they asked her a point blank question of, have there been any citizens or veterans that have been detained and deported? And she answered no.
She did.
So
absolutely.
She may be ignorant. And that,
doesn't she look it?
I don't believe
I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that.
I try not to slip into the same rhetoric as the Trump administration. I will go toe to toe with a person, but I don't care about their looks, But I do think she acts stupid. I'll agree with you on that.
No comment, because I might get in trouble. But no, I would tend to agree with you. But I have lots of people that listen, and sometimes they shut me off when I try sticking up for people that are getting yanked out of vehicles because they're waiting for their attorney to come down the street. And then they come up with a line, which anything is possible. But how do you know they're not calling their boys to come down and shoot up ICE and stuff like? Really? I mean, look, anything is possible. But so we're going to pull people out of a car, smash a window, grab them, throw them out. You explain it to me. I can't.
These aren't hardened criminals that they're grabbing. I mean, sure, maybe a small percentage are, and I would support that. But the majority of them are people that are just here trying to live their lives. They give to our economy. A lot of these people are being snatched from their workplaces where they're holding jobs and pay taxes to the U.S. government on those jobs. It's just the way that I'm watching these families being ripped apart is unconscionable.
And we just had a couple of cases over the past week where people from this area had been taken, and all of a sudden a court has ordered the release of that person, and there is no foundation for even holding what's her name? The press secretary's brothers.
Yes.
That whole ordeal. Part of me was saying, well, now they got somebody on the Trump side. What are you going to do? But in all reality, somebody that should not have been apprehended.
Right, and then look at how they're carrying, or I should say abusing people when they're actually being detained. So when they're being held, they're being put in these holding cells. I mean, in Burlington, Massachusetts, we have a facility there that's just supposed to be a holding cell for a few hours. And instead, they are overcrowding them, maybe 30 people to a cell that's meant for 5, and keeping them there for several days. There's a toilet out in the open. That's the only thing that you can use. You've got a camera right above your head. You barely get any food. They're giving people cold oatmeal. They're giving people crackers. You have no bed. There isn't enough room to lie down. They give you one of those thin Mylar sheets that you get if you're a marathon runner or in a car accident. That's your blanket. And you can't take a shower at all. And then they're not supposed to lock women or children up in that facility. But we don't have a facility for ICE for women in Massachusetts. So they have put women there and they detain them until they can transfer them to Maine. So they're putting women in cells with men, or they're putting them in solitary confinement, but with 3 or 4 more women, so they can't lie down. Again, no shower, not enough sustenance. We're torturing people. This isn't who we are as Americans.
I think many folks, to your point, forget the fact that one of the things that makes the United States of America the United States of America is we are supposed to have a modicum of humane treatment for people, and that doesn't seem to be happening. That's one of the reasons people want to come here. And all of a sudden, and more to my point, I see this happening to people with green cards, people that are U.S. citizens that, oops, we got the wrong person by mistake, and no real apology from the government.
Exactly. I mean, there's a gentleman in North Carolina who is a U.S. citizen who got detained twice in one day. And the second time, ICE tried to break his window to take him out. It's just absurd what's happening. It's a Gestapo state at this point.
I got to ask you, because that's a case I don't know about. Bad enough the first time. Why did they go back the second time?
Because one of the tactics that they have is to set up checkpoints. And so they grabbed him in a traffic stop. He wasn't violating any laws, but they stopped him. He has brown skin. So they tried to detain him. And at that point, I believe it was for about an hour and a half until he was able to prove his citizenship. Then he has everything on him. drives down the road later that day, gets stopped at another checkpoint. This time he's pissed off, and I don't blame him. So he didn't want to roll down his window, so ICE tried to break his window to get in, only for him again to be detained for over an hour and prove that he is a U.S. citizen.
They couldn't just ask right there?
They don't believe people. I mean, I have coworkers who have been naturalized citizens for decades who are now carrying their papers with them. This is where we are right now.
I think it's sad. I wish others would feel the same way. Most of the time, well, we got to deport them. And it's like a broken record that there's got to be a left and a right side of the brain that says, wait a minute, these aren't the worst of the worst. This isn't, you might say you voted for closing the border. Okay, but did you vote for U.S. citizens, Army veterans to be apprehended, folks that aren't bad, that are going to work, that have either a visa or a green card? Is that what you wanted? We got to get the bad guys out. But, it's like there's a mental block there that says these are bad people. They weren't born here. We don't want them here.
Right, which is just flat out xenophobic. I mean, I'm sorry. I grew up in New York, which is a state that has a lot more diversity, at least the areas that I was in. And I went to the Statue of Liberty so many times, and I really believed the words there when they say, give us you're tired, you're hungry, you're poor. I believed I was living in a country where we thought that immigrants made our culture richer and better. And from the immigrants that I have in my life, I truly believe that that is the case. So now we're at a point where we're scaring very talented, qualified immigrants away. We have people from other countries afraid to visit, so our tourism dollars are evaporating.
But that can't be true, Rebecca, because Donald Trump just gave the economy an A++++.
Oh, good. Oh, then I'm wrong. Let me quit my activism, and I will go back to my little bubble.
Wow. I mean, the tourism part, I completely forgot about. We have no real numbers on the summer tourism. This area used to boom with tourism, Cape Cod, Boston, going up to Maine. I have no idea what tourism was like this year. Certainly, there weren't a lot of people coming from Poland and Russia to work at the restaurants because they were afraid to come to the United States.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you say restaurants, that's one of the hardest places that's being hit by immigration. We have these businesses that are owned by American citizens that have been shut down because they had their entire staff taken away, even though the staff ends up being released because they were all there illegally. I can't tell you how many business owners tell me, but I have checked. I have their visas. I know they're legal. Why did ICE detain them? And then eventually...
And they don't get a response, do they?
They often don't get a response. And so some of them get released and come back. Some of them get deported, and then it's like, oops, sorry, we didn't know. Because, again, they're not getting due process. That's the whole point. We have a system for this. I know people are upset that the system takes a long time, but we have a system, and a person has a right to go in front of a judge. Because if they don't, then who's to say that an American citizen isn't going to end up getting deported, which has already happened.
It's already happened. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Or a person that might not be a citizen but shouldn't be deported because she or he didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, like the Korean veteran that we just saw on TV this week who fought for our country, was shot twice during war, has a Purple Heart, and has lived in the United States since he was 7 years old. He was deported to Korea, and the only crime that he had committed were crimes to himself because veterans often deal with PTSD and they self-medicate. So he self-medicated and he got himself in trouble. He didn't hurt anybody else, but he hurt himself, and that one blip on his record meant that we kicked him out of the country.
I still don't understand. So he's self-medicated. What is the grounds for taking the green card away and deporting him? I don't get it.
Yeah, there are no valid grounds. What they're going by is, oh, you had a DUI, or, oh, you had public intoxication. That's what they're that is enough for them to call people a hardened criminal right now. One of the tactics that ICE is doing currently, especially in Massachusetts, is they're just showing up at court. If they know that there's going to be an immigrant showing up to court, oftentimes it's an immigrant going because they're following the legal process to obtain citizenship. But if they know that you're showing up and you have not gotten that citizenship yet, then they just take you. So there are ICE watches all over the state. I'm a part of some of them. And
what does that mean? Hold on. Slow down.
Yeah.
Rebecca Winter is a part of what?
Mass 5051.
No, but what are you watching?
Oh, gotcha. So there are different neighborhood watch groups that have popped up throughout the state, and we watch and verify ICE activity. So that means if ICE shows up and tries to take someone, there is a hotline that people can call, and then the local neighborhood watch groups are alerted and can respond. And this is helpful in multiple ways because, for one thing, sometimes people think that ICE is there and it's not ICE. So it's good to have some documentation and some verification because that's just not really happening right now. The other thing that we find is if ICE is trying to abduct someone and there is a crowd, they are much less likely to act unlawful in front of a crowd. They'll still do it, but they're less likely. So if you get enough people, and when I say crowd, I'm not talking about an angry mob. I'm talking about people using their First Amendment rights, staying nonviolent, recording with their cameras what's going on, documenting, staying at a safe distance, not obstructing the law, but being a presence. And that is happening more and more at courthouses now because we're finding ICE, again, is just sitting there waiting to grab people. So you'll see more neighborhood watch groups outside of courthouses, and they are just legally observing and trying to support the person that ICE is trying to abduct.
Rebecca, what do you say to the person that says, you're interfering with the actions? In fact, don't we find that whether people are doing anything wrong or not, that they end up getting charged with obstructing the officers, the ICE officers?
We do. Yeah, we are finding that people are being charged with obstruction, but that's also being thrown out in so many cases, especially if you look at Chicago, where ICE officers are just pepper spraying protesters in the face who are standing there peacefully. It gets the protesters out of their way to say obstruction of justice, cops take them away, but then it's just getting thrown out as soon as the protesters go in front of a judge. There are certainly ways that people could be actually obstructing justice. What is happening in most cases, though, is that people are acting lawfully. They're keeping their distance, they're recording. We have a right to monitor law enforcement and keep them accountable. And in this case, ICE has had no accountability. They have lowered their standards in every way imaginable, and their tactics are just inhumane at this point. So we are going to hold them accountable in a legal way.
Rebecca Winter is the executive director of Mass 5051. Want to just put that little pregnant pause in there. I didn't ask you before, but will you take phone calls?
Sure.
508-996-0500. Hello, you're on with Rebecca.
Well, thank you both for defending democracy. Now, Rebecca, you may or may not know statistics, but a while back, some MAGA government officials said their aim is to deport 2 million people in time for the midterms and tout themselves on that. I heard a report last week that only 6,000 people have actually been deported, and that's one reason they're violating their statement. They're only going after criminals. They need more deportees for the midterm election, touting, etc. Now, how many people do your figures indicate have been deported, and how many are on hold to be deported?
Those are great questions, and I don't have those numbers. They're not made public, so we don't have good ways to verify that.
How many ICE agents have resigned during this period?
I hope so many, but I am fearful that not. It's a demoralizing job, and from what I hear, they're not treated well, so I don't understand why anyone's taking these positions.
I'm hearing that ICE officers are also resigning because it wasn't what they signed up for.
Right. And, it's really interesting how Trump set this quota and they're falling far behind. And I mean, frankly, I don't think you should be setting a quota of how many criminals you're rounding up, because that, again, on the accountability side, you're just going to round up as many people as you can, get the job done, doesn't care if they're a criminal or not. But I do think that it is important to, excuse me.
Sure.
I do think that it is important to just consider how the tactics have changed from how ICE agents acted before the Trump administration and now, because they used to actually make inroads with the immigrant communities. They didn't do these big public shows of power. It was a lot easier for them to find the people who did commit crimes, who are here and are a threat to the United States. When you make friends with the immigrant community and they know that you're not coming for them, you are coming from the hardened criminals. So they were actually more successful when they were using tactics that weren't so public and brash.
Caller, you have another question?
Yes. Rebecca it is, right?
Yes.
What's your take on the current threat that 15 blue states or so should be turning over their SNAP records and all the filing application information, or the government, Trump will shut off SNAP benefits in a more serious way than happened this time?
Yeah, I mean, it's just absurd. It's just part of government surveillance. It's so classic authoritarian. Again, things that we do have data on. There are no immigrants that are here illegally who can get SNAP benefits. The registration process for that doesn't allow for someone who is not a citizen to be on those. So they just keep spinning these lies about where the money goes so that they can shut down all of these life-saving services like SNAP and pocket more of the money for the billionaires that are in power. And this is what we keep trying to put out there, is this really isn't a left versus right issue. The Trump administration has done such a beautiful job of making red and blue teams of enemies, but that's not the real enemy. The enemy is the billionaires that are in power. There should be no one going hungry in the United States. We have enough wealth here to feed everyone. So this nickel and diming on SNAP benefits is only to get them more money.
So to be clear, because I've heard mentioned numerous times that we have people here in the Commonwealth that are receiving SNAP benefits. Are you trying to say that they are not?
There are people here legally registered with SNAP benefits, but there is no path for someone who is illegally here, who has no paper trail to register for SNAP benefits.
What about the people that ended up getting housing that somehow got into Massachusetts, whether they came from another state or another country?
That's not SNAP benefits, though. There is a program in Massachusetts, and the name of that program is not in my head right this moment, but we do have a state program that provides housing assistance for people who make under a certain income. I believe the state gives you up to $5,000 of housing assistance, and that is open to immigrants. But that's, again, statewide. That's not national.
508-996-0500. Thank you. Hello, you're on with Rebecca Winter.
Hi. So that's not really true about SNAP benefits. There's a man named Featherstone who ran one of the hotels that had all the illegal aliens in them. And not only did they have SNAP benefit cards, they had several. They get fake Social Security numbers because, as you said at the beginning of this, they've been taken out of their jobs where they're paying into the taxes in the United States. That can't happen if you don't have a Social Security number. If you're an illegal alien, you don't pay taxes unless you have a Social Security number. So they don't have it if they're illegal, but they're getting them because people know how to the dirty paperwork. And we actually had one in New Bedford that they caught people doing this. In fact, they found 2 of them. So it's not true that they're not getting SNAP benefits. The amount of SNAP benefits went up in Massachusetts since the arrival of these illegal aliens was outrageous. It was millions. It went up. It's crazy. So you're not accurate. They are getting SNAP benefits.
I would be very curious where you're getting that information from. It directly conflicts.
I told you, the man who ran the hotel full of illegal aliens. When he had to go in their room when they got thrown out for raping their daughter or whatever, and they go in and they have 3 different names, as some of these people do, and they have them in 3 different orders, like 3 different cards. Roberto, Cesar, Diaz, Caesar, Diaz, Roberto, and they had 3 of them.
I'm just having a hard time. I'm having a hard time. Your phone is very muffled.
Yeah, what I was looking for was a source, not just hearsay. So I understand these fear-mongering stories are making their ways around. I'm wondering what the primary source of that is, because that doesn't fit any of the other actual data that we have about the SNAP program. And I do want to address the income tax. So you don't have to have a Social Security number for taxes to be taken out of your paycheck. There are other types of identifiers that we allow for that. Immigrants give about $2 billion towards taxes in whole for the United States yearly.
I'm just having a hard time hearing her. Rebecca, go ahead.
Sure.
What were you?
Oh, that was the end of my statement. I was just clarifying that actually immigrants without legal status still do contribute about $2 billion towards our U.S. taxes every year.
They do, quite frankly, and one of the ways to get a tax ID number, anybody can get a tax ID number. Yeah. Just go through the IRS, and they're more than happy to give you one.
They'd be happy to take your money. Exactly.
508-996-0500. As we wrap this up, Rebecca, you've got the Ice Tea Party taking place what time on Tuesday night?
So that's going to be Tuesday night starting at 7:15, and it's going to be a quick one. We're hoping to get people out by about 8 o'clock. I know it's going to be cold.
And where will people meet? Can people from down here go, or is this going to be on TV, or what are you guys doing? How about video?
I don't know if it's going to be on TV. We do have some press outreach. We're going to be meeting at the Irish Famine Memorial Plaza. We would love for people to come up. We actually have members down in New Bedford that are planning on making the trip. So we hope some folks do. I don't know for sure if we're going to be able to live stream it, but if we do, we are at Mass 50501 on all socials.
And what would prevent you from streaming?
Well, if the crowd gets big enough, internet tends to be shaky. And the other thing is just having enough volunteers to do everything. We are completely volunteer run. No one gets paid for any of this. So
not even the executive director?
Even the executive director. I know I have such a fancy title. I don't get any money for this. I still have to work my full-time job.
What do you do?
I just have a new full-time job. I'm a director of IT.
Wow. You sound like a lawyer. That's why.
I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but I'll take it.
Okay. So does that mean you're not?
I am not a lawyer.
Wow. Well, yeah, you're very well spoken, and I think that this is a great event that's coming up. I know there are people that don't believe all that what you stated or all that I state about this, but I do believe it's a representation. You're going to be peaceful. Oh, that's another part I want to bring in here. Because at many of these events, we're always told, oh, there's going to be bad actors there. Don't go.
Yep.
What have you done to try to keep the peace?
Yeah, so we have a really great safety team. Again, they're all volunteers. They're trained in de-escalation, and they're the first layer of safety to kind of get people to, again, not take the bait when it comes to agitators, because it's true. There are always going to be counter-protesters. There are always going to be bad actors that are going to try to incite violence. And thankfully, we do live in an area where our protests have remained peaceful and lawful. And we set that as the expectation right from the beginning. So usually our lead safety marshal will get on the mic and remind people what is expected. And then if someone is in trouble and needs help, they can grab a peacekeeper. And of course, if things were to ever get out of line, we do have a police liaison with the Boston Police Department.
So you pretty much have it all wrapped up. Do you ever fear that somebody from an opposition group, or maybe in this particular case, a government spook might come and agitate?
It's always a risk. The counter-protesters that came to the last No Kings were aggressive. They did their best to purposefully bump into people and try to start fights with them. One actually injured a teenage boy, and that boy chose to not press charges, but he could have. So, there is always a risk. We ask people to stay vigilant. But in general, our events have seen folks come from all ages. I've brought my children before. Plenty of other people bring their whole families. And we just try to keep the environment as safe and joyful and uplifting as possible.
It's not going to be kumbaya-ish, is it?
No, I mean, we're pissed off. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that we're not, but we can be pissed off and keep decorum at the same time. We can be respectful.
Gotcha. Rebecca, I really appreciate you coming on. I'd love to hear from you Tuesday night. Right there from the scene. I have to be here in studio, so I can't get out there. But I that's why I asked about TV. I could turn on the TV. I could turn on the internet. But I want to see what's going on. I want to see a tea party in action, an ice party, whatever it is.
We're really hoping to at least have the live stream up on Instagram, again, at Mass50501. It's just, we've got to see if the internet works. But regardless, we have photographers and videographers who are going to be there. So we will be posting a lot of footage after the fact as well.
You want to do one comparison to the original Boston Tea Party? What makes you guys synonymous to 1773?
We are kicking a tyrant king out of our country.
That king never came over here.
I know. And this king pretends he's not actually a king, but then he keeps posting AI videos of himself wearing a crown and literally throwing feces all over the country.
You don't think that's AI generated?
It is AI. Oh, it's absolutely AI.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he picks up dung. I don't know what he does in his spare time. And besides building,
I don't want to know what he does in his spare time.
Right.
Between, his connections with Epstein, I really don't want to know what he does in his spare time.
I think a lot of it, just since you brought that up, I think there are a lot of people that had a connection with Epstein on both sides of the aisle and outside of an aisle.
Absolutely, absolutely. And don't get me wrong, I don't care what political affiliation you have. If you are a pedophile, you should go to jail.
Gotcha. I appreciate that. Take great care.
You too.
No problem.
Bye.
Rebecca Winter, Executive Director of Mass 5051. Talking about the Boston Ice Tea Party that's going to be taking place Tuesday evening on the anniversary, 252nd anniversary of the original Boston Tea Party. Wow, this is going to be quite the week coming up. That's on Tuesday the 16th, Monday the 15th. Do you know what Monday the 15th is? Most people don't. Monday, I do. Monday the 15th is the anniversary of the ratification of the Bill of Rights.
When you devote major effort and major financial, economic, and political capital to getting the integration to happen, you don't have very much left to make education happen.
This is WBSM.
You know, most people are not business owners, but just about everybody knows one. The dirty little secret is Most owners don't qualify for a bank loan because they lack collateral. At Legitimate Business Funders, owners can get up to $2 million in funding with no collateral, even with a low credit score. And they can get that funding in a couple of days. Find Legitimate Business Funders online at legitimatebusinessfunders.com. legitimatebusinessfunders.com.
Coming up this week on Town Square Sunday, it's been a busy year for the Immigrants Assistance Center in New Bedford. We'll check in with the IAC president, Elena Da Silva Hughes, about the center's mission and how you can help. AHA Night this month is Thursday, December 11th, and the theme is NB Festive. Kim Goddard outlines an array of programs featuring holiday crafts, ugly sweaters, and music and fun just about everywhere downtown. And Joe Ritter joins us from the New Bedford Fishing Heritage Center with a list of new fishing-related programs and films during the months of December and January. I'm Jim Phillips. Join me for Town Square Sunday, Sunday morning at 6 and 11 on 1420 WBSM 99.5 FM.
Traveling for business or pleasure? Instead of booking online, first call Low Cost Air. Let a real person compare prices and schedules. With Low Cost Air, booking is your option, which means there's no obligation to purchase anything at all. Call Low Cost Air to compare. 800-221-6085. Low Cost Air, 800-221-6085. Low Cost Air is proud to sponsor Brian's Beat on the radio and online.
There's no better fool than the Freedom Fools. Now, back to Brian.
I said a government's a way, way, way too big. Government's a way, way, way too big. You know that government's a way, way, way too big. So tell us what you gonna do to make it small. Your move.
Opportunity to do something that could be phenomenal. And I don't want to be cute. I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad. This could be so magnificent.
He doesn't want to be cute. He doesn't want to be a wise guy. Let me thank again Rebecca Winter, coming on to the program today to talk about the ICE Boston Tea Party. I guess it's the Boston ICE Tea Party that's taking place Tuesday evening up in the big city. Thank you for your patience. Hello.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
I would say this today's show is Who You Fooling?
Who you fooling?
Because Rebecca didn't give me any sources, and she didn't speak fact, and how she can get away with lying. I'm going to give you a source.
What did she lie about?
Well, there's no SNAP fraud.
Okay.
Brooke Rollins.
I don't think she said fraud, but I think she said no illegals on SNAP.
Brooke Rollins, the secretary of the USDA during the 6 weeks of the shutdown, her words, not mine, 164,000 cases they discovered of SNAP fraud with Social Security names and numbers used of deceased individuals.
And when did they find that?
During the 6 weeks of the shutdown.
Isn't that interesting?
That's just those 6 weeks.
Isn't that interesting? Because the government was shut down and they were able to find that.
Well, she found it, but the agency that can find a lot of the fraud and abuse is the Social Security Administration.
They were open.
Whether they were or not, I don't know.
No, they were. They were open, I'm saying.
I don't know if they were open or not, but I'm just saying that's what the data, obviously they were. If they've discovered the fraud, 164,000 cases, they have people using deceased people's names and Social Security numbers. And we know that under Doge, there's hundreds of billions of dollars of Medicaid, SNAP, and welfare fraud that took place. And Elon Musk said the Social Security Administration is the one that can open this wide open and get down to most of the waste, fraud, and abuse. And under Joe Biden, they didn't want to do that because most of the nonprofit organizations, the NGOs, are affiliated with the Democratic Party, and it's a gravy train, and it's all that money. You got to keep the gravy train going. You take away the fraud, and you don't have all of these yuppies from Ivy League schools in these administrative jobs. You know what I'm saying? Politically connected, and a lot of the lobbyists are out there in what they call the swamp. So this is all about big money and using taxpayer money, keeping this fraud machine going.
I think there is a lot of that going on. I'm not necessarily... I think that there are people on SNAP that are here illegally.
Absolutely.
I don't know my guest any more than a couple of conversations, but I think that there's always a way for people to get there, and so I'm not going to call her a liar for that. I think that she's been given a bunch of numbers.
What about this word, Brian?
About what?
What about this disingenuous? How about that word? You like that word better?
I think that there is information that she's been given, legitimate information, but it doesn't show people that are here illegally getting SNAP benefits. I think people are cunning enough to figure out how to do it that she wouldn't know, and the people that gave her the information don't know.
Oh, she didn't give the sources. Who are these people that she says in these organizations? Where did she get the data from? I want to know this. Anybody can talk about it.
Why didn't you call her during the time that she was on?
I didn't get a chance to, Brian.
Okay.
And besides, she was going to circle the wagons anyway.
Maybe. One way to find out is to ask.
Yeah. I wonder if she works for Putin and Xi of China, trying to undermine the U.S.
Why?
That's another question I would ask her.
Why would you wonder that? Why don't you think that she is serious about fighting this administration and some of the things about ICE?
Well, she had a woman that called you. You had problems with her communication. Well, it was actually her phone line. But she was exposing the fraud, and she poo-pooed it. That's not true, and who are your sources? And these are people who are trying to undermine the movement, all that jazz that they use. You know what I'm saying?
I heard you. I look. There's credence behind some of the things and some of the things that other caller had mentioned, but that doesn't make a person a liar.
Well, I'm just going to tell you right now, the stuff I heard from her, it's not based on facts. She didn't want to give me sources, or was a government agency she got the information from. I don't know. I mean, this is hearsay as far as I'm concerned.
Fair enough. Going to let you
Anybody
go.
Can come on.
Only because I'm at the top of the hour, I'm going to let you go at
all
that.
Right, Brian,
but I do appreciate
that
it.
by you, Brian.
You ran it up my flagpole, and I appreciate it. Hour 3, we're going to take more of your calls. We're going to end up hour number 2. ABC's got the news coming up at the top of the hour.
And bring about the freedom of these people by any means necessary.
This is WBSM.
It's about options. Instead of booking your next trip online, call Low Cost Air at 800-221-6085. Next option, speak with the real person to compare prices and schedules instead of AI. And with Low Cost Air, booking is an option. There's never an obligation to purchase anything. So call Low Cost Air to compare at 800-221-6085. Low Cost Air, 800-221-6085.
Freedom Pools on WBSM. Here's more with Brian Thomas.
That's what I want. That's what I need.
We need to end standardized testing for all kids prior to high school. It has to go away. It is an unfair way of grading teachers. It is an unfair way of judging schools, and it's no indication of success, and it makes kids who are 8, 10, 12 years old feel stupid because they can't take a test well.